probably selling around 200 to 250,000 apple rootstocks. And this year we're just about done grading this year. It's always a wintertime project, and we'll probably end up selling around 200 to 4 million. So I've grown that business quite a bit over the years. That's what I do is farming, real estate wise. I've also purchased some of the old Evergreen campus. I did that back in 2015 when they went bankrupt. Again, purchased it from the bankruptcy court. So I'm always out looking for a good deal and something that I can turn around and grow into something that's prosperous for, you know, financially for this county and for myself. So that's kind of my background. If you guys got any more questions as we go along, I'm sure I forgot a lot. Used to own the Bayou Golf Course. I mean, and bought that in 2000 and ran that for about 8 years. Some of you might know that it's right down the road, just before you get to Amity there. Anyway, I've done a lot in a very short amount of time. I'm only 42 years old, and this is going to be a very interesting and exciting part of my life as county commissioner. So I'm excited.
That's great. Thank you, Kid. And I think that everybody knows everybody now. So I am so sorry that we didn't get to meet in person. I was really looking forward to that. But hopefully we'll be able to do that in April. But I like to see people's faces. I like to see people's body language so that I know if there's a question that's not being asked and that sort of thing. I'm sure you all understand. So this is not my best medium, but it's what you're stuck with today. So we have the minutes, and well, look, now we have okay, there they are. Can you see them? Cool. I've got 2 screens now, so I can still see all of you and I can see the minutes. So this makes me very happy. So this is the agenda. Obviously, it's not the minutes, but the one thing I wanted to point out now, while Katie is still here, is that the next meeting will be on April 26th, which is actually, I believe, the 4th Wednesday of the month, because I'm actually going to be out of town on the normal week. So the treasurer gets to have fun for a week in April. So I hope that doesn't create a big problem for you. And then we'll go back to what is now the 3rd Wednesday of each quarter. And hopefully I won't have a conflict like this again. So that's the agenda. The minutes, you'll notice, are quite a bit shorter than usual because I kind of think it's silly to write a bunch of words about what people can actually watch. And so the minutes are quite short, but anybody who goes to look at the minutes will see all of the documents that are actually crucial to what we're doing here today. And so all the reports and everything else that is referenced. And so I have added the time in the minutes so that if somebody says, well, I want to see the online access for Clearwater, they know exactly where to go in the minutes to do that. So they don't have to look through the entire stream in order to see what they want to see. Now, I did this because I heard a complaint from somebody who was trying to, apparently the city of McMinnville has stopped doing minutes completely, and they just have the video, and people find that a little difficult. So I'm trying to do both. So if you have any concern about this new approach, please let me know. But it's easier for me, and in the long run, I think it's easier for anybody who's actually trying to look for something. Any questions on that? So do I have somebody who would like to recommend that we approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. All agreed? Say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. And so we move on from the minutes to the broker list. The broker list, once a year, under the investment policy, I need to review all of the brokers who we have approved, who we do business with. And this is the same list. I haven't added or taken anyone away. I've had people apply who have actually turned it down. And so I'm very happy with this list, with the exception of Alan Schnall, who basically, there's no reason to delete him from the list, but I find him to be kind of an obnoxious person. So I don't have to do business with him. There's plenty of people on that list. And he just says things that maybe aren't all that appropriate. So anyway, there's nothing wrong with his skills. It's just, I can work with the people I work with the most are Josh Gorham, who is fantastic. He was down. I actually got to meet him when I went to the Treasurers Conference. And he's just a real straight shooter and very, very smart. And then I also will deal with Nolan Farr at Piper Sandler and Mark Walker at Moreton Capital. And I try to work with Zach, but he just never has quite what I need. But those are all really good people. Now, Josh Stevens, he actually held our account before we moved it to my mind is blanking. Well, we moved it anyway to a secure place, and he lives in Michigan, and he seems like a great guy. But once again, he doesn't always have what I need. But I wouldn't hesitate to do business with him. So that's the list. No changes. Just wanted you to see it. And then we move on to. Here is the second quarter report. Once again, it's in you're probably going to see that every quarter I will be monkeying around with this report simply because as we go through, and we can stop and talk about this, as we go through the year or the years, what is important changes depending on the economic climate and the rate scenario and the portfolio and how I make changes to it. So I kind of, this might last in this form for a while for us. But before we get into that, I just wanted to briefly, I feel that everybody probably knows very clearly that we probably are headed towards a recession. What we don't know is that recession going to be soft, or is it going to be hard? Is it going to be short, or is it going to be long? And you can talk to any economist or advisor out there and get a completely different answer. I personally, maybe I'm just being optimistic. I'm hoping that it will be short and not overly severe. I think, as you may have heard this morning, Microsoft is laying off 10,000 people. There's lots of jobs that are being cut, and you can't, I mean, it's good for what the Federal Reserve is trying to achieve, but it can't help but affect the economy. And a lot of these people who are losing their jobs, they're high-end jobs, so they're not going to have the money to spend, and that is definitely going to affect the retail sales and even the real estate market to some degree. So we're in very, very treacherous territory at this point. Unless, of course, we're conservative, which I have been conservative with the way we invest. The curve is inverted for the yields, and so, as you know, we have very high short-term, really short-term rates, and then we have lower rates at the long end, and in between, there's not a whole lot of difference right now between a 3-month and a 3-year. The 3-month is higher still. So what I have done in response to that, I have invested monies in very short term, 1 to 3 month treasuries that are earning 4% or higher. And but they are discounted bonds, which means that I buy them at a discount, and then when they mature, I get the full face value. So they're not paying interest in a traditional way, but the interest rate or return, the return on it is equivalent to 4% or somewhere around there. So it's a little confusing, but I'm going to continue to do that and rotate those from anything 6 months and under. I will buy $1 million lots, short-term treasuries, and let the other bonds that we have roll off, and then just be very, very attentive to what's going on in the market. And there will be a point when it makes sense to me to buy something longer, but we're not there yet because I don't think we've reached the peak of the interest rates. Does anybody have anything to add to that? Comments? Okay.
I think I would just like to back you up and say I think that's really smart. We're currently doing that for a lot of our nonprofit clients as well, buying treasury bonds. We've kind of found the sweet spot is like 17 weeks, right around there. As those bonds right now are paying like 4.7, so pretty good.
Yeah.
I think safe. So I think it's smart.
Yeah, good, Kevin. I know I can rely on you. You are a more active manager than some. I think you kind of you stay on top of your accounts, and I'm sure your clients appreciate that. But the the trend is working in our favor. We didn't expect to earn 4.5% on this portfolio, and we aren't on the whole portfolio. But to earn 4.5% is great for us, especially when it's short term. The other thing that goes with that, and it's kind of like sometimes none of you probably do this, but I get blinders when I see, okay, this is the way we do things, and then something will have to just kind of pop up and I go, oh my God, we don't have to do it that way. Well, one of those things is that according to our policy, we don't have to worry about whether or not the investments are in bonds or in money markets. What we have to worry about is, are they shorter than 180 days? So there's no set limit to how much we can have in the portfolio, as long as the percentage matches with what our goals are for liquidity. And so when I was buying these very, very short bonds, I realized that doesn't count against the limit of the portfolio size. So we can actually have, according to the policy, we only have to have 25% of the bond portfolio be under 180 days, when in fact, right now, we have about 60% of it under 180 days, but it's not all in the government fund. So I just wanted to explain that if it looks different, we have maturity less than 180 days. If you'll look at this, it's 61%. And so that is very much conforming and is actually better than what, if you can say that's better, but that's because I wanted to earn that higher rate of return on those short-term bonds. So I just wanted to explain that because I had, when you inherit something from somebody else, you tend to just stick with that unless you see something that doesn't make sense. Now, it's not to say that we'll always be 61% less than 180 days. We only have to be 25%. So as the rates change and the economic scenario changes, these numbers here are going to change. But just know to keep the eye on the 25%, and know that that's really where we absolutely have to be. The other, so that's a change for, that's my latest Wordle number. That will change as we go along as well. And I've never tracked it in quite this way. So this looks a little different on the report. The other thing that I did in conjunction with Mike Barnhart is we decided to open at US Bank a money market account because they were paying pretty good rate on their money market account. And this allows us to have even more liquidity, instant liquidity, if you will, for Mike if something comes up and he needs to access that cash, he can get to it really easily. The promise that US Bank made to me is that they would match whatever LGIP was paying so that we're not losing money over here by not having it in LGIP. So we currently have 2 million in there, and that's kind of where Mike and I think is the best place to hang out. Now, if we got a sudden influx of cash like we do in tax season, it makes a lot of sense to have this so that we can keep below the maximum that we're allowed in LGIP and still earn a good rate of return. So that is a change that I feel really comfortable with. But I have to tell you, I have to actually send my contact at US Bank anytime we get a rate increase at the money market account. I have to actually send that to him so that he will then raise the rate. They're not doing it on their own. They're doing it reluctantly, but they're so far they're holding to that.
Hey,
are there any
Chris.
questions about that? Yeah, Kevin.
Well, I'm just wondering, do you have to, if you are going to have a money market, does it have to be at a traditional banking, like an institution?
Yes.
Okay.
We are not allowed to have any kind of checking or money market account with any bank that's not approved by the state of Oregon. And it also cannot be, basically anything that has a CUSIP, we can't buy.
Got it.
And so that is limiting. And I'm kind of glad about that, because if we are coming into a recession, I like being with, particularly the banks are kind of having, the commercial banks, not our local savings and loan, are having some cash flow problems. And I like to be with the big guys for this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just, because I know that, like, for example, we custody at Fidelity, and the Fidelity money market, all backed by treasuries, is paying, close to 4%. So
Yeah, we can't do that.
right. That's what I figured. I just want to double check.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, we and as you all know, we're getting 3.15% right now on LGIP, which is pretty good for LGIP. So that's now what we're getting on the money market account as well. I would prefer, we need to keep, some real liquidity. And I would prefer to have it in treasuries that are earning 4.5% or 5%, but I don't want to go crazy with this. I just kind of crawl around. So I'll probably reevaluate exactly how much now that we're past the tax season, so I can get a better sense of what we actually have. I may actually put more money into the treasuries directly, which would get that percentage that you're talking about. Any other questions on that?
Chris, I might just add that commercial banks that hold public deposits have to post security with the state treasurer. So we all post or pledge securities in a shared risk pool, so that if one of us fails, then there's enough in there to cover the public deposits.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Yeah. Hey, Jim, I noticed you're paying a pretty good rate on your CDs right now.
Yeah, we have a couple CD specials going right now. So
Yeah.
trying to hold deposits. It's a tough market with the inverted yield curve yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that when I was in there the other day and I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to move my money.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, I have so much money that it's gonna make a huge difference for you guys.
I'll look forward to it.
My $3,000 that I might want to move over there. At any rate, so that's the I think the biggest philosophical change. The other thing that is happening in the process, first of all, we have no risky bonds, if you will. We used to have some kind of lower grade bonds and they've matured out. And so we don't have anything lower than an A at this point, and we shouldn't have those, but they're fine for now. Those are the ones that were purchased a few years ago, and they're solid companies. But our average credit rating now is really solidly in the AA range, and should only become more solid as I choose at this point anyway not to buy corporate bonds. As I said, this will change based on what's going on out there. So to go back to here, we have 49 million in the Zion portfolio and 28 million in the LGIP. ARPA is still around. We still have those funds. And then we have this 4 million at US Bank, which brings us to a total of 84 million. Now, bear in mind, this is our peak time for cash. And September, which was our low time for cash, was 52 million. So, and I don't know, Ken or Mike, you can correct me, but I think this 32 million asset change is all our money. It's not money that we owe to any of the other taxing districts. That's actually money that we have to work with at this point. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, it should be. Yeah. We send money out to the taxing districts within 5 business days that we get them from the assessor. So that should be our county increase, I believe, for the year.
That's great.
We'll be spending that down, obviously, as the months go by.
Right. So we will probably end up somewhere. I don't know if we'll go as low as 52 million, because I understand that was kind of an accounting anomaly, but it'll go down gradually. So my plan with these $1 million chunks is to just kind of roll those throughout the year. And so this 32 million, as it goes down, we're not stuck. And I don't want to invest too much, even though it is very, very short term. So the overall, this is a more visual view for those of you who like to see it graphically of where our assets are at this point. And then for the portfolio, this is the mix over here of where we have the funds. And as you can see, agency now is 49% and 31% is the US government. So we're really leading towards having a very, very stable mix. The book value plus accrued of this portfolio, the difference is the accrued interest is 51 million. The book yield is still only 2.28%. And that is a reflection of those older bonds. And so consequently, those are priced down in order, for the market value. So we have still a 2 million unrealized loss that hopefully will mature out and we will come back to not having a loss, hopefully. But that'll take a couple of years, possibly. And so this is the market value of the portfolio as of the end of the year. And the effective maturity, 1.486, so that's well within our goal. And 20% of the bond portfolio is callable. We're allowed 35%, so that's within our goal. We bought $15 million last quarter. I'll show you the list of those, and 185,000 matured. So, whoops. So what that translates into the cash flow, which is really the whole purpose of this portfolio, is to take the advantage of the funds that we have and earn some money off of that. So last quarter, we earned 355,000 on the portfolio. And I've added a column here for realized gain loss, because that's where the discounted bonds, when those are matured, they'll show up as realized gain. And so I wanted to include that here so that we don't forget that we're getting that extra income as well. And this shows you the percentage of the money that we have in the portfolio, where it's coming from, what investments. As I said, our bonds yield is 2.3. It's a different number because it's taken from a different way of calculating. LGIP is 3.04, and the money market's 2.85. They just raised that for me, and LGIP is higher. This is what we earned on this portfolio, not what we're earning now. And then there's the treasuries, and you can see even the 1 year. I mean, 1 year is kind of a sweet spot if you can do that. And so that's just a chart viewing that. Are there any questions about any of that? Kevin, you have your hand up, or is that left over?
Sorry, that was left over.
Okay. So now this is the trading activity from the quarter. As you can see, we have those two bonds that matured. And then these are the bonds that I purchased. And you'll look at the maturities, they're very short. The price is discounted. And as it shows right now, oh, that's the way the accounting works, never mind. So the principal amount is 14,626. Only one of those actually pays interest. The rest are all discount. And I will continue to buy $1 million chunks at a minimum, because it is more competitive in that market to do at least that amount. And so those are kind of typical. And then this is our holdings. And if you want to go through here and have specific questions, and I think anything you could ask about a bond is there. And this bond now has matured, and a few others will mature in the next quarter. And so that is that for our review of the portfolio. Are there any questions about any of that? Any suggestions? Or pretty straightforward, other than the fact that I've shifted my emphasis a little bit. And I can show you well, I can't show it. Never mind. So the that's it. So it's only 9:37. That's a record. And I feel like I must have forgotten something. It just went so fast. Kit,
Chris, this is Commissioner Bershauer. How is the new reporting software going? Are you liking that?
I love that. Yes, it's great.
Okay.
It really helps me, mostly for the day-to-day tracking. It's really helpful because, as the market shifts, I see immediately how it's affecting our portfolio. I see immediately where I can always look and see what's coming up and maturing without having to go through a lot of rigmarole. It's great. And I think Mike has been enjoying it too.
Okay, good to hear.
Yeah, and I'm going actually to an all-day conference tomorrow in Tigard that's being put on by Clearwater, where they're going to have other users from the area there, and we will talk about how people use that software to their advantage, or if they have questions and that sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. And plus I want to meet the other users in the area. They're not counties necessarily, but so it'll be, and there's a financial advisor in the area. It's called GPA. I don't know what it stands for. That is just outstanding, and they use Clearwater. And if I were, they're so good that one of the head people from the investment team from the state, the LGIP, left there and is with this organization, and they produce the best weekly newsletter of what's going on. And if we wanted to use, which there's no need to, but other counties are using them to manage the portfolio because they just are really on top of it. And so they'll be there tomorrow, and that's the reason I brought them up, because I really enjoy, and I want to build that relationship, because they're kind enough, even though we don't have an account with them, to send me all their research, and they're really helpful. You all can come if you want. You don't have anything to do, you can spend your day with Clearwater and have a catered lunch and at the Marriott. So any other questions? All right. Well,
I got
hopefully. Oh, okay.
So back to the CDs, what makes you decide one way or the other to buy, a CD with US Bank versus trying to keep it, local with First Federal? I know you kind of brought that up a little bit, and that's the reason I'm asking, that you made a comment that First Federal had a, good buy on a CD. I'm just curious.
No, that's a good question. Yeah. We could, but quite frankly, we don't buy CDs at this point. We do money markets, but if we did buy a CD, we certainly could buy one, but it would be a lot of rigmarole to do it. And unless they're going to pay more than what I could get from a treasury, there's absolutely no reason to do that. So we're with US Bank for our checking. So
Oh, I see. Okay.
yeah, so that's why we do that. There would also be a problem for Jim, I think, if we tried to do it with Jim, because he's on the board. That would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, we can kick them off the board.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. That's exactly the same question that I asked when I first started this, is why are we not spreading this out? And we're really limited in a lot of ways. And
I'm just thinking not so much that, but just more local, dealing with somebody locally. I was gonna literally walk right down the road and talk to Jim versus US Bank. I ran into numerous times where they just are so large and so national that there's no customer service at all anymore.
Absolutely, I agree. I was going to say I hate US Bank, but that would be too strong. Say I would prefer not to deal with US Bank. But there's a long history of our checking account and all of the other banking relationships that have been set up that apparently work well with US Bank. And to change a bank for an organization the size of ours would be a nightmare. And Mike would curse you if you tried to get him to do that. But no, I don't like US Bank either. Sorry. I bank with First Federal. I bank with Jim. He's my guy. Even though I never see him now because they hide upstairs. He's not, his office isn't, I can't peek around the corner. Yeah.
That's all I
Yeah,
got.
I'm not in the branch anymore, but I'm still here. So you can always have Peggy ring me and I'll pop down. So. But you are
Okay.
doing better with treasuries than we could pay right now. Trish, you're doing a good job on those short-term treasuries.
I imagine you're doing some of this with your funds too. Your short-term
Yeah.
funds. Yeah. But it's a very good question. I have, there's other things that, people have asked me about, our corporate bonds, what corporations are you dealing with? Or do we want to deal with that whole story? But since I'm not buying corporate bonds, it's not an issue. And I don't think that our corporate monies, if we invest, should be politically chosen. I think we need to go with the most solid company with the highest yield that we can get with the best terms, rather than to start looking around and say, oh, but they don't do this and they don't do that. That's not my style of investing. Any other questions? Well, okay. All right. So we'll see you on April 26th. Think of me the 7 days before, which we would normally have our meeting. I will be in Italy. So I could probably run it from Italy, but I don't think so. Anyway. So Commissioner Starrett, you popped up. Are you wanting to say something, or are you just?
No, I want to say goodbye when it's time to say goodbye.
Okay, well, it is time. I've been rambling on. It is time. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next quarter.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.